Afternoon YouTube, Sidekick here. Today I'm in my Harrier, but once again approaching the part of the world I like to call the trench. This is familiar territory for the Skyhawk, but today we're here in the Harrier for part 2 of our iron bombs, tips, and tricks. If you haven't watched part 1 of the series, you probably should go back and do that. In that video we started out in the Skyhawk, flying a mission to take out bridges using iron bombs and iron sights. And we discovered that although it can be done, it's pretty challenging. Then we moved on over to the Harrier to look at 2 computer-assisted bombing techniques. Continuously computed impact point, or CCIP, and continuously computed release point, or CCRP, or in the Harrier it's just called auto mode. In both of these techniques we really didn't change the basic attack profile. We popped up, dove on the target, and dropped bombs as we flew over it. Today we're going to look at a couple of ways of using the computer-assisted modes to let us avoid flying over the target when we drop the bombs. This became an increasingly important consideration as the quality of air defenses improved over time. Being low to the ground over a heavily defended site became effectively suicidal as radar-guided AAA and hand-launched IR systems proliferated. First technique we're going to try is toss or dive toss bombing, and it uses CCIP. It sets up very similar to the other dive bombing techniques, so you can see we're flying a pretty similar route. We're going to approach the ridge and pop up and find the target, and we're giving ourselves just a little bit more distance from the target. You'll see why in a sec. Now, full disclosure, this technique is still one that I'm trying to learn, and I am by no means an expert or, frankly, even very good at it. Still, hopefully I can show you how it is supposed to work. So, it starts out like a normal CCIP run. So, as you can see, we're popping up, we're looking for the target, and once we're satisfied that we're in about the right place, we're going to roll in. So there we go, we're rolling in. Cutting back on the power. Now you'll see when we come back to the cockpit here, we get down low enough so we can see the HUD, you'll see that we have the CCIP pipper on screen. But this time, instead of trying to put the pipper over the target, we're actually going to dive in front of the target. So we're trying to line ourselves up so that the flight path vector is below the target but kind of in a straight line up to it. Yeah, something like that. And now we're going to pull back at the bottom of the dive, and the CCIP pipper is going to stay in front of us, and as it crosses the target, we release, and then we brake. And we hit the target.
15 seconds.
Now, as you can see, that didn't provide us with a great deal of standoff, although we did actually not overfly the target, and we did hit it, but really not probably a very good example of toss bombing. An example of how it's done, but not really an example of doing it very well. I'm going to keep working on the technique. It's really just a question of figuring out how to dive, when to pull up, how high to pull up, a whole bunch of factors that kind of relate to one another. Now, if there's anybody out there who has worked on this and is really good at toss bombing, please give us some advice in the comments. And if you'd like some help making a video to show everybody else how it's done, well, let me know about that too, and I'd be happy to give you a hand if I can. Okay, we'll take one quick fly around here to get a look at our handiwork. Confirm that we did in fact take out that bridge, and then we'll start talking about the second technique, which is something called loft bombing. So loft bombing uses CCRP, and it's quite different than any of the other techniques we've used today. It actually has its roots, I think, in a technique that the United States Air Force developed to allow fighter bombers to deliver tactical nuclear weapons at low level without actually becoming collateral damage in the resulting explosion. Obviously, this meant finding a way to effectively throw a bomb a long way without having to gain a lot of altitude to do it. Essentially, the idea is that we'll approach the target at low level, we'll line up on it, and then at the right time we'll pull up into a shallow dive and release the bombs. The forward and upward momentum imparted to the bombs will throw them forward to the target while we break away and depart. Now, when you're delivering nuclear bombs, pinpoint accuracy is not a big consideration, so the technique basically involved aiming in the general direction of the target and flying a very precise trajectory and releasing the bombs based on a timer. It might have worked for nuclear strike, but it wasn't really a way you were going to take out a bridge with a 500-pound bomb. Enter CCRP mode. Using CCRP mode, if we have an accurate location of the target and good navigation data, the computer can not only tell us where the target is, but it can compute our bomb's expected trajectory so that all we have to do is fly at the target, pull up, press the release, and wait until the computer decides it's time to release the bombs. Then we break away and the bombs fly onto the target themselves. So, we're going to set up this time on a different approach path than we've used on all of the other techniques. Instead of turning towards the ridge and popping up to come down on top of the target, we're going to fly down along the valley. And we've got our target identified, and we're basically going to turn towards the target until we get our bomb fall line. We'll slow down a little to give us time. There's the bomb fall line. We're going to get on it. You can see the square that indicates the target. We also have a range to the target. So now we're going to pull up, and then the trick is here we have to pull to an angle and hold. And then we press the pickle, the bombs go, and we turn away. And I'm not even braking that hard. I could have broken a lot more aggressively if I wanted to. But okay, let's check in on the bombs. And shack. So you can see, based on the nav computer, we never got closer than a nautical mile to the target, and we probably could have stayed even a bit farther away than that. We released the bombs at a little under 2 nautical miles. So that's a decent standoff, and obviously you could probably get more if you wanted to be more aggressive about it. So loft bombing with CCRP is certainly a way to go if you don't want to be overflying your target. All right, well, we're just, again, going to take one more look at what we have wrought here. I hope you've enjoyed these tutorials on how to use iron bombing techniques in the Skyhawk and in the Harrier. If you have your own tips and tricks for using iron bombs, feel free to leave them in the comments. As always, subscribe to the channel and like the videos if you want to help them keep coming. But for now, this is Sidekick, signing off.